January 30th, 2024, at 7:30, I call this town meeting to order. I'll entertain a motion to admit. Ms. Gonzalez.
Mr. Moderator, can you hear me? No. Can you hear me? Yeah. Can you hear me now? Mr. Moderator, I move that the following non-registered voters or visitors be admitted to the meeting. Rob Carbone, NORCAM, Freedom of the Floor. Maureen Doherty, North Reading Transcript, Freedom of the Floor. And further, that the following non-registered voters be admitted to the meeting and permitted to sit with the officials and departments they serve. Stephanie Conley, Assistant Town Clerk. Carol Ducros, Staff. Danielle McKnight, Town Planner. Patrick Daly, Superintendent of Schools. Also Jason Smith, Matt Prince, Todd. Thank you. Allison Kane, Mark Zimmerman, Colleen Yu, Danielle McKnight. We have some duplicates. Gregory Sesaho, Joseph Parisi, Chris Vitale, Matthew McManus, Matthew Cooper, John Eichman, Harold Miller, Lillian Hartman, Debbie Carbone, Michael Manupelli, Marshall Murray, Matthew McCahey, Marianne McKay, Sophia Novolova, Pipus Kerwin, Patrick Daly, Sophie Martin, Lily Martin, Gwen Britton, Kevin Britton. I believe that's it.
On the motion to admit, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous? They can come in the room now. While they're coming into the room, for tonight's meeting, the tellers will be Lori Capizzuto. Lori, would you just... Lori will be counting the front and the floor on this side of the little speed bump in the gym. On my right, Chris Hayden. Chris, so they know who you are. Chris will count the front and that side. And Ed McGrath is down the back, and he will count the bleachers. All registered voters are wearing a purple badge. Visitors are wearing a black badge. You must be wearing. You should be wearing your badge if you want your vote to count. It should be visible, because the teller will go by and do the count, but you need your badge visible to be counted. Visitors are seated to my left. Anyone wishing to address the meeting needs to step up to one of the two microphones and wait to be recognized. When you're recognized, please state your name and address for the record, and keep the conversation related to the motion and the article that is on the floor of the meeting. And please, if you would, make sure your cell phones are turned off so that they don't interrupt the meeting. I'll now do for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, if we could all rise and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Mr. Gilberto.
Everybody hear me okay? Great.
I want that microphone.
A point of personal privilege, Mr. Moderator. I'd just like to briefly take time to recognize a longtime town employee who is a familiar face to all of us who attend town meeting. Carol Ducrow, who is over to my right. Carol, could you come forward? Please join me in a round of applause. Carol, can you guys hear me all right? Good. Carol is retiring after 24 and a half years of service to the town clerk. We thank her for her service, and we wish her good health in the future. Thanks, Carol.
I'll entertain a motion to dispense with the reading of the warrant.
I move to dispense with the reading of the warrant and to refer to the articles by number, and further to dispense with the reading of the return of service by the constable.
On the motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Article 1.
Acquisition and appropriation, 1 Central Street. I move to authorize the select board to... You can't hear me? Acquisition and appropriation, 1 Central Street. Good? I move to authorize the select board to acquire by gift, purchase, or eminent domain upon such terms and conditions as it deems appropriate for general municipal purposes, the land or any portion thereof or interest therein, with all improvements, buildings, and structures located thereon known as 1 Central Street, identified as Assessor's Parcel ID 213-041-000000036.0, and believed to be more particularly described as Parcel 36 and Parcel B on that plan recorded with Middlesex South District Registry of Deeds as Plan Number 1278 of 1997, and as funding therefore and any and all costs incidental and related thereto, appropriate $650,000 from free cash, and to authorize the select board to enter in all agreements and take all action necessary, convenient or appropriate, to carry out such acquisition as printed in the warrant.
On the motion, does the select board have a recommendation?
Select board recommend.
Does the finance committee have a recommendation?
Finance committee recommends.
School committee, do they have a recommendation?
School committee recommends.
Mr. Gilberto is seeking a 10-minute leave of the meeting for purposes of a presentation. This requires a vote of the body. Is that correct, Mr. Gilberto? 10 minutes?
10 minutes,
Yep.
please.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Gilberto, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? Great. So this is for the acquisition of 1 Central Street. The parcel is a single-family house lot that abuts town-owned land connected to Ipswich River Park and fronting on Central Street. The appropriation being requested is $650,000 from free cash. Just a little bit about that term. It's not free money. It's a state finance term for the portion of undesignated fund balance at the end of a fiscal year. More simply put, it reflects the money that's left over from the previous year's town budget. About the parcel, it's owned by Nancy E. Wheeler and the Wheeler Realty Trust. It's 0.54 acres of land. It's 1,804 square feet with a single-family home and 280 square foot detached garage. It's valued at $641,700 by the Board of Assessors. If you saw in your warrant, this is a map of the area. The area described as the property to be purchased is what's in question here. The two large parcels above and sort of to the right are the town-owned parcels. They are under the care, custody, and control of the Hillview Commission, and they are currently being utilized by the Parks and Recreation Department. Considerations for potential use have included an indoor recreation facility or ice rink, an updated parks maintenance building, fields, an intergenerational community center, although other potential municipal uses might be identified in the future. It's important to note, tonight's vote and discussion are not to determine what the future use will be. The vote is only on whether or not to purchase the property, adding area to existing town-owned land to make any future use of the land more feasible. Depending on the potential eventual use, we may need state legislative approval for the currently owned town parcels, as they are restricted under Article 97 of the state constitution. Regardless of that use, the acquisition of the single-family lot at 1 Central Street provides additional contiguous and relatively dry land with frontage on Central Street. This purchase is $650,000, and again, it is to be funded using available funds in the form of free cash without the need for a debt exclusion or override. It's another view of the parcel looking from over the park itself toward the barn and gravel parking area at Ipswich River Park. The house is up and to the left in that black circle. To the right is the current white recreation center building at 5 Central Street. Some frequently asked questions: will my taxes go up? No. The funding source is free cash, which is the state term for funding left over from the previous fiscal year. Why not use that free cash to lower my taxes? Free cash is a one-time revenue, cannot be used to fund recurring costs. Each year, departments ask for operating funds that exceed the amount of recurring revenue. While free cash cannot be used for this purpose, it's been an important tool for purchasing equipment, repairing buildings, and covering certain non-recurring costs in the municipal and school budgets when projected revenue is insufficient. How will we decide what we'll do with the land? Multiple committees are working to review options for the use of the property in the area, including the facilities Master Plan Committee, Parks and Recreation Committee, Hillview Commission, and Land Utilization Committee. Ultimately, the decision about what to do with the property will come back to a future town meeting for approval by the voters. Frequently asked question: the town has other parcels such as the Smith property, 9 Mill Street, and parcels in and around Eisenhower Park that's acquired in recent years. What's the status of these parcels? The Smith property off of Elm Street was acquired as a means to limit development along the Ipswich River and remains undeveloped today. Eisenhower Pond contains a trail network that may be accessed from Oscars Way, Burnham Drive, Magnolia Street, and Lloyd Road. The town also acquired a single-family home at 9 Mill Street. It was part of our discussions with the town of Andover when we were looking to acquire all of our water from the MWRA. We ultimately opted to go with the town of Andover in 2018. It was purchased with different funding source, the Water Enterprise, and it's anticipated to be sold using the state-required request for proposal process early this spring, although the town will retain the right to use a portion of the land for a future municipal purpose if necessary. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Rita Mullen.
Good. Rita Mullen, 29 Abbott Road. Am I loud enough? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming. It's great to see you all. Thanks to the Select Board, Town administrator and employees in finance department and committee, town staff, town employees, planning this in such a short turnaround time because of the option to purchase this property, the final piece of the Wheeler Farm, which was all farmland before Ipswich River Park was built. Sometimes I open with a joke, but not tonight. You're going to have to humor me for a minute. My mother used to say, I can say what I want, I'm old, and you can't stop me. That wasn't my joke. We're not having a joke. I'm not being nostalgic tonight, but when I saw what a terrific job the TA had done, I said, I took a bunch of the numbers that I had off. I knew a lot of people might be coming from wastewater, thinking that might be on the agenda, so I tried to change this at the last minute to kind of give you a story to bring everything quick together. So I want to explain our process on the half acre of land. It is a big deal to us. In 1992, in those days, we were not a throwaway society. People, family, friends, our few materials that we had and belongings, our property mattered. Things were not disposable then, and we didn't just plan for today, we planned for the future. We planned for this 27 years. We took pride in what we did, and we looked to a future to leave a footprint and a roadmap of what we did and what we could do, and what would be important for future generations of volunteers on what we did and why we did it. Keep our committee together as long as we could until our task was done. We went after all abutting parcels over the last 20 years, patiently, as it took time to build a strong foundation for our phase 2. We, volunteers, were regular, mature residents, and I was the youngest, and the others were historians in their own right. Most members of these committees served a minimum of 10 years, and some stayed till we finished the end of Ipswich River Park and still are on the committees today. The three that I'm talking about were the Hillview Commissioners that started this. George Stack, chairperson for over 30 years, stuck with it until even now because he doesn't want to retire at 80 until everybody has everything, he's got everything documented of what they've done. Fran Hatchie was around for such a long time, probably over 20 years. Then Larry Diamond, Jim Sr., Hank Purnell, Walter Billouts, and Bob Messeri and Steve O'Leary that weren't there the day that they opened for this, but Bob and Steve were on every other committee, and Bob served years in the Hillview Commission and was always a big fan of Ipswich River Park, the LUC, and recreation. So I want to thank them, and I want everybody to understand this didn't happen overnight. This happened with all the volunteers. The same volunteers you see up here, some of them have been here for a long, long time also, like Abby and Dawn on finance. So it takes an awful lot of people to get these things together. The Land Utilization Committee, same thing. The original members, Kenny Tarr, Margie Salt, myself, soon after that, have been 27 years today, plus the 5 years it took to get to that point. 32 years those people stuck with this project, and again, didn't want to leave until we finished parcel 2. One member, Bill Reed, Lasden, Scott Simpson, Ruth Leiden, Jim Brophy, Mark Hamling were the members of the original one. I'd like to single out Michael O'Neill. I don't know if I saw Katie here somewhere. So Katie, we're speaking to you. Mike was the heart and soul of the committee. Michael passed away in 2023, July, so we didn't have a chance to come here and appropriately thank him and his family for what he did. So tonight I want to say to him, he was one of our founding fathers. As his profession as a civil engineer, he offered so much to our committee that the other 8 couldn't possibly put together what he did for us. The bulk of the work he did can be seen at IRP today. He was on the committee as a member originally, and then as he retired almost after 20 years with us, he was our on-call engineer for anything that Parks and Recreation or LUC needed. And after that, he resigned. Anything we needed, we just called him. Things mattered to Mike. Things were important. He was a perfectionist. As a member of LUC, he was instrumental in the design of Ipswich River Park the way you see it today. When we hired the firm that was going to come in and do the design for us, they saw Mike's work and said the amount of money what he saved for us was invaluable. 90% of that park is exactly the way Mike drew it up at that time. He also then, when we called on him for the turf field, stuck with us from start to finish, and he designed the field for us, and again, saved us all kinds of money. Mike wasn't a local here in North Reading like an alumni or somebody we went to school with, but when he came to live in North Reading, he and his family became part of the fabric of this town, and he left his footprint where it mattered, with his friends, his family, at the high school and the soccer fields where he played soccer, and where his children went to school in an IRP, where he played in the over something league. He said 30 years old. I believe it was something like 60. Today, his grandchildren will walk where Mike did, and I trust as he and his wife Janet Connolly O'Neill and his daughter Katie have volunteered their time to this town, they also have left a mark on it. His grandchildren will too. I know they will. They all made a difference. Thank you to his family for sharing Mike with us and the rest of the town. Katie, if you're here, can you just stand up? I know you're here, but where are you? Thank you, Katie. Thank you for sharing, Katie. The Recreation Committee, same thing, our members and staff that stayed for a very, very long time. Serge Corviello and Mike Fitzpatrick are two members that ran the leagues in town in soccer, and they decided when they got out of soccer, they were old enough, they wanted to do something in recreation for their kids. Serge recently retired after 20-something years. The one thing he wanted to do when he came on the committee was he wanted to do a youth center, a recreation center, something that he could give back. After 23 years, and us badgering him and him badgering us at meetings, we couldn't complete it then. But Serge, we are going to get it done, and Mike Fitzpatrick, the same reason, joined for those reasons. We'll get it done before you leave town. Thank you, Mike and Serge. Abby and Dawn, thank you for everything you've done for us, then and now. I needed everyone in this room to understand this darn half-acre parcel of property. It's important to us. I needed to talk about some of the people that have been there, been with us. The older members that have been around 20 years on LUC, they left their mark. Margie Salt was one of the original committee members, stayed with us, wrote the $1 million grant. Margie, we can't thank you enough. Kenny Tarr, with us for 20-something years and even stayed on after he left. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to truly thank Nancy and Charlie Wheeler for the trust and consideration in giving us your refusal, our first right of refusal, at a very fair number. You abided by what your dad had said to you. You met us when we were kids, and your parents were great to us as farmers, and their word was their bond. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. And 27 years ago, when the park was born, it was the birth of the park in 1997. The three committees that volunteered on that team and all the people that were in town that helped out have contributed, with the Hillview the most, obviously, of $6,500,000 on 50.3 acres of parkland. Never, never, never did we ask the town tax people for 1 cent. It was all raised and paid for through the monies that we all brought and paid back our debt to the Hillview to show them that we meant what we said and we kept our word. Thank you. To bring the phase 2 of IRP to completion, we are asking for your vote to purchase the final piece of Wheeler property. The reason I'm trying to throw this in really quick and get it all out there is that I paid attention to the negative things that came out that were good that you said, positive that you were willing to share what you felt. I did not know who would be here tonight, and I wanted everybody to understand we are not any other group other than 3 groups asking for your support on this. So I had to give you some background. The people that I talked about are the same people that are in the audience. You work for your leagues, your kids, your schools, you donate, you know what volunteers are, and the older ones like me know that you pay taxes for all your years without kids in the school, even when they got out, and you've given us great role models to look at. I respect everything that you've all done and felt that I had to explain a little more in the story as opposed to giving you the numbers because he did. The town has the opportunity to purchase this. This is the first time we will pay for it out of free cash and without Hillview money. Timing is everything, as the Wheeler family was prepared to sell, and LUC and Recreation were ready to finalize the land we own under Phase 2 of Ipswich River Park to establish priorities of what the final 6.5 acres would look like. It would be the front door to our next project on whatever we choose. If anybody has a water, I would love a sip. Take it right out of your bottle. Mind my mouth. I own it, thanks. I'm on a lot of meds tonight to stay calm, so I'm getting a little dry, you know what I mean. As you saw the layout of the whole site, we need to continue using some of the property still for the overflow parking, like Michael said. Great, he saved about half an hour. A design and designation will be established to review the cost to replace the existing maintenance building. Those are all things we're doing now. We don't have to wait till we know what we're going to do. We're going to be ready when the time comes to do whatever has to happen. With the available space, we will be prepared to review the present options for consideration. With a new parcel on Central Street, we go from 191 frontage to 316 feet using both houses. Big deal when you're building anything, whatever we put in. The recreation facility has been suggested with a gym for all ages, whatever it's going to be, an intergenerational facility somewhere based on state regulations. Skating rink has spoken to us a number of times, a lot more options to be determined. To this point, save time again, you did a nice job this year. All the committees that he mentioned are all collaborating together. We're working together, we're doing all the what ifs, if this happens, where this will go, and if we can't, obviously we can't put everything on there. LUC and Recreation are looking over all the properties in town, everything over 1 acre, everything over 5 acres, everything anywhere in town to see, are there any other things that can be swapped around so that we can do a couple more things? But understand, we're not asking anybody for money yet, and we're not asking for what you want to do. We're going to be studying it, and we're going to be very transparent with everything we do. We're meeting independently and together with the committees on lake projects to go over the ideas, review the needs over wants. We are looking into grants associated with our departments, and we are speaking to our state rep, Brad Jones and Bruce Tarr, on any available state funding for each project that will be under consideration. I cannot tell you, like you all know, Brad Jones and Bruce Tarr have been unbelievable to this town for everything we've asked them, and even this past year, we've got $100,000, another $50,000 to pay for things in town and recreation in the parks. So thank you very much to them. I'm blowing through this last page. The one thing that people talked about is the Smith property. It seems like it's a negative sometimes with people that feel we bought a Smith property and has done nothing with it. This is the only time I'm going to give you a couple numbers. The fact LUC and Rec were involved in it at the time, and the selectmen asked us our opinion on it. We met with finance at the time, and we looked at it. Smith property, back in 2004, 50 acres. They had said they were going to put in 30 to 50 house lots. Fact, it was not going to save any money by them putting the houses in because they were doing taxes. What we have to understand today, when we looked at it and we studied it back then, $4,700 was the number that they used for every child that went through school. Those were the figures that they say it costs to take care of a child. If you use that same number today, it would cost us $880,000 a year if the houses went in there, as opposed to leaving it blank. It's a very, very important number. That number went up to $18,000. That's the number that the town uses, states use to talk about how much something's going to cost. So please, those of you, I brought the folder if you want to look at Smith property so you know it was a good move at the time, and it still is a good move that we can look and do anything we want, whenever we want with it. Since 1947, has your quality of life in North Reading gone up because of Ipswich River? Only you can be the judge of that. We can't answer that. I can answer, though, on all the individuals that have purchased a brick, a tree, or a bench, or any of the members of LUC have met, and we've met these people. From their point of view, this was an oasis for them. This was a place that they could go and recall a lot of their family members after they were there, and this is a place of peace and tranquility for them. I can't put a price on it, they can't, but you have to understand, and I believe any of you that have been there have to have some good feelings about this. Phase 2 is going to do the same thing for you, whatever is there. The bigger financial picture on the 650, why are we buying that instead of anything else? This purchase of land in town will be in a position that we will judge everything on what they talked about, park and recreation land. Are there grants for it? What other funding sources are there? Each project we present to you will have facts and costs associated with it. Each project will be need-based. There are currently openings on Parks and Recreation Committee and Land Utilization Committee for members and associate members. If you are all interested in joining either of these committees, please fill out a volunteer application online on the town of North Reading. This is how most of the volunteers up front got here. I can't give enough thanks to everybody here, whether I agree with them or not, and they definitely don't always agree with me, but the way that we handle everything and we all work together. Thank you, and thank you to this group of volunteers. My sincere thanks for coming out tonight to understand why this parcel was studied and the matters that will mean to future generations. The last thing one of the things my mother said when I was riding her around on her wheelchair, we'll end with her at Ipswich River Park. As a kid, when I always went out and volunteered for different things, she would say to me, "What the heck are you going out for? You've got enough things to do. You don't need to do that. Other people will do it." And I said, "Ma, I enjoy it. You can't even cook or boil water. Why don't you stay home and learn something else? You don't need to take care of the park." One day I said, "Mom, it was a beautiful day. Let's go out in a wheelchair." I walked her around the park in a wheelchair, didn't talk to her about it, just let her look out. She goes, "It's a beautiful day, huh?" By then she had a palsy type thing. And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Can you hear me?" I said, "Yeah, Mom, I can." You think this is beautiful?" And I said, "I do, Ma." I said, "I know it's not big on your top list, but I've got to tell you, it's one of the most beautiful parks I've ever seen. You must be proud." I want to say to all of you what my mother said. All you people should be so proud when we voted at 639 to 1 to buy the parcel, and all the people that did it here. Thank you for coming out.
Ms. Gonzalez.
Rita has thanked everyone else, but I would like us to thank Rita for all that she has done. So I just want to say a few words. I just have a few bullet points. Have you ever done a puzzle? Have you ever worked on a puzzle, got to the end of the puzzle, and there was a piece missing? One Central is the missing piece. We've all enjoyed Ipswich River Park. I think everyone here, in some way, there is something for everyone. And this is that last piece of the puzzle that will give us the frontage on Central Street to be able to do the things that we all want to do, whether it's the senior center or the hockey rink or all the things that we talked about. We can't do it without the frontage. So this is the missing piece of the puzzle that we really need, and we're hoping that you will allow us to have for all of us to enjoy. Hillview was a vision at one time. It was something that was brought to town meeting and asked to take a chance on, and we're so lucky to have that. Ipswich River was a cabbage farm. It was a vision to be a beautiful park, and now we have it. This is the finishing touch of that vision. There's a country song called Buy Dirt, and a line in it is, thank the good Lord for it, because he ain't making any more of it. You know, let's keep our land. Let's keep that for ourselves, for what we want to do with it. I want to touch on free cash just quickly. The TA did a great job explaining it. What I think everyone doesn't understand is the word free cash is something the state makes us call that. It's not, if I could name it, I would name it the people's cash. It's our cash. It's all of our cash. It's for us to use, and we can use it for this. And it would be a great use. To end, I just hope that someday somebody comes up here to town meeting and talks about the vision that you allowed to finish the Ipswich River Park. Thank you.
Anyone else seeking recognition? Mr. Yule.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you. Hello? Hello? I just tried to turn it on, but if anybody knows how to work this thing. That right. And testing, testing. Hello, hello, hello. Well, hi there. How are you?
You know I like my stage. Check, check, check. Hi, everybody. Sorry about that. Oh, hey, you want to go here?
Can I?
Yes, that would be great. That's awesome. All right.
Hello, can you hear me now? Okay, good. This is the better one, it seems. Let me put this down a little bit. Okay. Before I ask a question or two, I just want to say something here for this wonderful crowd that we have. My name is Jeff Ewell, 427 Park Street. Thank you. This is obviously very important to everybody here, and it should be. But I want to remind everybody that we have June town meetings and we have October town meetings. And this is what we need at those meetings, because those are very important as well. So keep that in mind, please. What I wanted to ask, I attended the meeting last night, and I asked a few questions, and one of my big concerns was that possibility of the seniors being left behind in the whole project. And hopefully that is not the case as they start making plans. I think what I wanted to ask is, are you restricted to using the funds as you described? In other words, using the people's cash, I like that, okay? And the other portion of getting your funds. Are you restricted to that?
Mr. Gilberto.
So there may not be a legal restriction on the use of the funds, but there are other factors that we have to consider with the use of free cash, mostly and because it's a one-time source of money. It varies from one year to the next. It's different than the property tax levy, which we can predict from one year to the next. It varies. So outside factors like the bond rating agencies that evaluate our financial health and determine the cost for borrowing, which we don't need to do for this transaction, but do generally have to do on an annual basis. They look at how we're using free cash. If we're using free cash for recurring expenses, so if we're paying salaries, for example, that need to be sustained from one year to the next, they look very unfavorably at that. They view it as a sign of our budget not being healthy. So we have, through the financial planning team, which is made up of representatives from every board that's up here, been very careful to only utilize free cash for one-time expenses. So that's the best way I can describe the limitation.
Do you, Mr. Moderator? So you can use another source, because when I left the meeting last night, I was thinking to myself, how can we make this beneficial to the town and on a financial basis, because we wanted to succeed, and at the same time we want to keep save money wherever we can. And I started that it was brought up at the meeting about 9 Mill Street. Now I believe that's going to be brought up for sale in April, as if I understood correctly. And so I thought about that, and then it made me thinking about, well, you have the Pulte Home Fund, okay? And I don't know if that's a correct term of it, but I'm talking about the money that we received from the sale of 2 Pulte homes. And I was wondering if that would be considered as a better option, because we might wind up not touching the people's money and leave it right there, so that we can use this, the Pulte Home Fund, and the money we get from 9 Mill Street. It would seem to me that we won't have to touch that money that we have in abeyance at this time.
Mr. Gilberto.
There are similar, if not more restrictive, limitations on the funding you're talking about. For those who don't know, the Pulte funding is the town's share of the sale price for a parcel of land across from Benevento and the town line with Wilmington. The town ended up receiving approximately $17 million in proceeds, I believe, in 2017 from the sale of that land through a partnership with the state. Those funds are restricted. They are only able to be used for capital purchases such as equipment, the payment of debt service, so our annual payments on bonds that have been authorized at town meeting over the years, and for the acquisition of real estate. The reason that has not been proposed as the funding source here tonight is because I think that all of us in the financial planning team have held those funds as sort of sacrosanct. If free cash is sort of one-time in nature, the Pulte funds proceeds are very one-time in nature, like once in a lifetime to get that type of inflow. And so I think we've been very careful about how to utilize those funds. Back in 2016, the Select Board, the Economic Development Committee were very vocal about those funds being targeted to the extent possible in investment for infrastructure associated with economic development, whatever that might be. And so that has been the avenue that we've been looking for to utilize those funds when that time is right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. This article requires, as it's the purchase of land, it requires a 2/3 vote. I will go with a voice vote to start, and if uncertain, I will have tellers count the votes. So all those in favor of the motion and the article to purchase the property, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Article 2.
Article 2, to amend fiscal year 2024 operating budget. I move to pass over Article 2 as printed in the warrant.
On the motion, a recommendation from the Select Board.
We recommend.
For the Finance Committee,
Finance Committee recommends passing over.
For the school committee,
School committee recommends passing over.
further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Article 3.
Before we get started, I just want to remind everybody that we still need 150 people for the next article, so please don't leave. Please stay. Thank you.
Article 3, amend fiscal year 2024 capital budget. Mr. Moderator, I move to amend the fiscal year 2024 capital expenditures approved under Article 25 of the June 12, 2023 Spring Annual Town Meeting by making supplemental appropriations as follows. $200,000 from Water Enterprise retained earnings and $315,000 from Water Infrastructure Stabilization for a total of $515,000 for water tower painting to be expended by the Department of Public Works, $250,000 from free cash for fire department renovation project design development phase expenses, including owner's project manager services, and $68,750 from free cash for design and/or construction at the North and Central Street intersection as specified in Article 3 as printed in the warrant.
Recommendation for the Select Board.
Select Board recommends.
For the Finance Committee.
Finance committee recommends.
School Committee.
School committee recommends.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Unanimous. I'll entertain one more motion. Yeah, one more motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, sine die.
Sina die. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Have a great night, everyone.